Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be diving into something
Oh,
a little different.
okay.
It's an educational skit about environmental science and conservation.
Interesting.
Yeah, not your typical source material, is it?
Not really, no,
Okay.
but I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right? We get to
Yeah.
see the science and how it's being communicated to
Exactly.
the public.
Yeah, and the skit features.
Yeah, it's really cool.
What?
It's got a scientist,
Okay.
a passionate environmentalist,
Yeah.
a concerned citizen named Tom,
Okay.
and a student.
Interesting. A good mix
Yeah, and they're all
of voices there.
discussing these big,
Yes.
looming environmental challenges.
Yeah, the ones we hear about all the time.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Climate change,
Mm-hmm.
pollution, biodiversity loss,
Mm-hmm.
deforestation.
The big ones.
But the skit doesn't just present these problems.
Right.
It also focuses on,
And then do.
what we can do about them,
Right.
both individually and collectively.
And that's key, I think, because it's easy to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the sheer scale of these issues.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It feels like
It's like, how can we possibly
too big to
even
what?
comprehend?
But the skit emphasizes that
Right.
human actions are directly linked to these problems.
So that means we also have the power to be part of the solution.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where Tom comes in.
Yeah.
That's where Tom comes in.
The concerned citizen.
Yeah.
He's like the voice of the audience asking.
Yeah. What can one person
Yeah.
really do?
And the answers that he gets from the other characters really highlight that conservation isn't
It's not just for
just for scientists and policymakers.
scientists and policymakers.
It's about everyday choices.
Right. Like recycling.
Yeah, using reusable items,
Planting trees.
planting trees, raising awareness.
Like spreading the word.
Exactly. And while those actions might seem small,
They can have a significant impact.
yeah, right.
When multiplied across a population.
Exactly. It's that collective
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, yeah. And the skit mentions reducing plastic waste.
Yeah.
Did you know that globally, only about 9% of plastic
9%.
actually gets recycled?
Oh, wow.
The rest ends up in landfills, incinerators,
That's terrible.
or worse, our oceans.
Oh, wow, 9%. That's a stark reminder
It is?
of how much work we have to do.
Yeah,
But it also shows the potential impact
yeah,
of individual choices.
absolutely.
Like if more people committed to reducing and properly recycling plastic,
Uh-huh.
we could drastically change that statistic.
Absolutely. And it's not just about,
Yeah. Feeling good.
feeling good or doing your part.
Yeah.
There's real science.
Right. Yeah.
Backing up the effectiveness of these actions.
Okay.
Take tree planting, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds so simple,
Yeah.
yet studies have shown that large-scale reforestation
Wow.
can actually help mitigate
Interesting.
climate change.
So it really can make a difference.
It can by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it's interesting how the skit presents these solutions in a way that makes them feel achievable.
Yeah,
Like Tom, the average guy,
right.
starts to see that he can make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that sense of agency is really powerful.
It is. And the skit cleverly connects that individual empowerment
Yeah.
with the idea of collective responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It highlights how individual actions combined with larger scale efforts from governments and corporations can lead to real change.
So it's not an either-or situation?
No, it's not either or.
It's about individuals stepping up
Right.
and holding those larger entities accountable.
Exactly. And the skit touches upon this
Yeah.
by having the scientist character emphasize the need for public awareness
Okay.
and action
Yeah.
alongside policy changes
Right.
and corporate responsibility.
So it recognizes that a multifaceted approach is needed to tackle these complex challenges.
Right. It's not a simple problem,
Not all.
and it's not a simple solution.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
Okay.
What are some of those larger scale actions?
Right.
And how effective are they?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to go beyond the skit's brief mention
Yeah.
and really delve into the impact
Okay.
of governmental and corporate policies.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
While individual actions are essential,
Mm-hmm.
there's a limit to what we can achieve on our own.
Right.
We need to explore
Yeah.
those systemic changes
Right.
alongside the individual choices highlighted in the skit.
Let's do that. Let's move beyond the individual
Right.
and dive into the realm of collective action
Okay.
and its potential to create lasting change.
Great.
But first, I think we need to understand the scale of
Yeah.
the problems we're facing.
Okay.
The skit mentions climate change, but how severe is it really?
Yeah.
And what are the projections for the future?
Yeah. Good questions. Yeah, to understand the need for collective action, we really need to grasp the scale of the problem, right? When
Right.
it comes to climate change. Uh,
Yeah.
the science is,
Okay.
it paints a pretty clear picture.
Okay.
We're already seeing the effects, and they're projected to worsen
Yeah.
significantly if we don't take
If we don't act,
drastic action.
drastic action.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds,
A little daunting.
yeah, a bit daunting.
Right.
What kind of changes?
Yeah. What are we
Yeah.
talking about here?
Well, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change,
Okay.
the IPCC,
Okay. Yeah.
which is like the leading international body
Okay.
for the assessment of climate change,
Got it.
they have stated that we need to limit global warming
Oh,
to well below 2 degrees Celsius,
okay.
preferably to 1.5,
1.5.
compared to pre-industrial levels.
Okay, so that's a pretty...
That's a significant reduction
Yeah.
to achieve this.
We need to reach net zero carbon emissions
Net zero.
by mid-century.
Wow. Okay, so basically we need to stop
We need to stop
pumping greenhouse gases.
pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Altogether.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
This requires a massive shift
Okay.
away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy sources.
So like...
Solar, wind, geothermal,
Okay.
things like that.
So it's not just about energy production.
No, it's not just energy.
We need to rethink
Everything.
transportation, agriculture,
manufacturing,
manufacture,
even our consumption
the
patterns.
way we live our lives.
Wow, yeah, that's a
That's a huge undertaking,
huge undertaking.
it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like we need governments and corporations
Yeah, we need those big players.
to really step up and lead the way.
Absolutely. While individual actions are important,
Yeah.
they're not enough on their own.
Okay.
Governments need to implement policies
Okay.
that incentivize clean energy.
Regulate emissions
Mm-hmm.
and invest in research and development of sustainable technologies.
Wow. So really
Yeah.
taking the reins.
And corporations need to adopt sustainable practices,
Okay.
reduce their carbon footprint,
Yeah.
and prioritize environmentally friendly products and services.
So going back to the skit,
Okay.
how does it portray the role of these larger entities?
Yeah.
You know, it focused mainly on individual actions.
Right.
But did it touch on the importance of policy changes?
It did, but briefly.
Okay.
The scientist character mentions that systemic changes are necessary
Okay.
alongside individual efforts.
So it's there.
And the environmentalist character argues for holding those in power accountable
Okay.
for their environmental impact.
Yeah.
So the seeds are there.
They're there.
But the skit doesn't delve too deep
Okay.
into what those systemic changes might entail.
Well, let's do that now.
Okay.
What are some specific examples?
Yeah, what are some examples?
Policies or regulations that have been shown to be effective in addressing these environmental challenges?
There are quite a few, actually.
Okay.
Carbon pricing mechanisms,
Okay.
like carbon taxes or cap and trade systems.
So those are ways to put a price on?
Yeah, put a price on pollution, essentially,
Okay.
have been implemented in various countries
Yeah.
to incentivize businesses to reduce their emissions.
Okay, so that's one way.
That's one way.
Yeah.
Renewable energy standards,
Okay.
which require a certain percentage of electricity generation
Got it.
to come from renewable sources,
Okay.
have also been successful in driving the transition to clean energy.
So those sound promising.
They do.
Are there any examples?
Are there companies?
Yeah, of companies taking the lead
Yeah, taking the initiative.
and implementing sustainable practices on their own?
Definitely.
Okay.
Many companies are recognizing the importance of sustainability,
Okay.
both from an ethical and a business perspective.
Right. So it's not just about
It's not just about
doing...
doing good. It's about,
It makes good business sense.
it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, some are switching to renewable energy sources
Okay.
to power their operations.
So they're leading by example.
Leading by example. Others are implementing circular economy models
Okay.
to reduce waste and resource consumption.
So that's like that cradle to cradle.
Cradle to cradle, yeah.
Manufacturing.
And some are even going carbon neutral
Wow.
or even carbon negative,
Okay.
offsetting their emissions through investments in carbon sequestration projects.
Wow. So they're really taking it seriously.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to hear
It is.
about those positive examples.
Yeah.
But let's be real.
Okay.
There's also a lot of resistance to change, right?
Yeah, there is.
Some industries might see these policies as a threat
Yeah, as a threat to their profits.
to their profits, right?
And some individuals might be reluctant to change their lifestyles.
Right. It's hard to break out of those
It is.
habits.
Ingrained habits and mindsets.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Transitioning to a more sustainable future requires overcoming significant challenges,
Including
vested interests,
yeah.
political roadblocks, and even those ingrained habits and mindsets that we talked about.
But the skit reminds us that change is possible
Yeah.
when individuals and communities come together.
Yeah, when we work together.
To demand it.
Right.
That brings us back to the idea of collective action.
Yeah.
Which the skit emphasized alongside individual responsibility.
Right. Both are important.
What are some ways?
Yeah. How can we have
that individuals can influence their communities and workplaces to adopt more sustainable practices?
There are many avenues for action.
Okay.
And the most effective approach often depends on the specific context.
So there's not like a
There's no one-size-fits-all.
one-size-fits-all solution.
But one thing that consistently emerges
Okay.
is the power of raising awareness
Okay.
and engaging in dialogue.
So talking about these issues.
Talking about...
And making sure they're on people's radar is a good starting point.
It's a great starting point.
Yeah.
The more people are informed about the challenges and the solutions, the more likely they are to make conscious choices.
Okay.
And demand change.
Yeah. So that could involve...
That could be anything from having conversations with friends and family,
Okay.
sharing information on social media,
Yeah.
or even organizing educational events in your community.
So it's really about getting the word out there.
Getting the word out,
Yeah.
spreading that knowledge.
Beyond raising awareness.
Yeah.
What are some more concrete actions
What can we do?
that individuals can take to push for change in their communities and workplaces? You know, the skit's message of individual empowerment is inspiring.
It is.
But I think our
I
listeners
just want to know.
are looking for tangible ways
Yeah.
to translate that inspiration into action.
You're right. Inspiration needs to be coupled
Yeah.
with actionable steps.
So let's get
But
specific.
when it comes to community-level change, individuals can get involved with local environmental groups or initiatives,
Okay.
advocate for sustainable policies at the municipal level, or even start their own projects, like community gardens
Yeah.
or composting programs.
So it's really about taking that initiative.
Taking initiative, yeah.
And what about the workplace?
The workplace.
How can someone effectively advocate for sustainability within a company or organization?
It's a good question.
It can feel a bit intimidating
It can.
to bring up these issues, especially if you're not in a position of authority.
Yeah, like you're not the CEO.
Yeah, it can feel that way. But, you know, change often starts from the ground up.
It does.
Even if you're not the CEO,
Right.
you can still make a difference.
Absolutely.
The skit touched on the idea of spreading awareness.
Mm.
So maybe that's a good place to start.
I think it is sometimes simply starting a conversation
Okay.
can spark a ripple effect.
Okay, so like what...
You could talk to colleagues about their environmental concerns,
Okay.
share information about sustainable practices,
Yeah.
or even suggest small changes.
Like what kind of small changes?
Switching to reusable coffee mugs
Okay.
or reducing paper waste.
So it's about
Creating a culture.
creating a culture of sustainability.
Yeah, making it the norm
Making it the norm.
rather than the exception.
And then as that culture grows, you can start pushing for more significant changes.
Right.
Like what?
Perhaps propose a company-wide recycling program.
Okay.
Advocate for switching to a renewable energy provider.
Or even...
suggest incorporating sustainability goals
Okay.
into the company's mission statement.
Those are great ideas.
Thanks.
But let's say you work for a company
Yeah.
that's not particularly receptive to these suggestions.
Right. Some companies are
Yeah.
a little bit behind the times.
What then do you just hit a wall?
Not necessarily. Remember,
Okay.
sustainability is not just about ethics. It's
Yeah.
also about smart business.
Right.
So you can frame your suggestions in a way that highlights the economic benefits,
Okay, so like...
like cost savings from energy efficiency
Okay.
or the positive impact
Yeah.
on brand reputation and employee morale.
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Finding that sweet spot.
where doing good for the planet
Yeah,
aligns with the company's bottom line.
exactly. And there's growing evidence
Really?
to support that alignment.
Okay.
Studies have shown that companies with strong sustainability practices
Okay.
often outperform their peers financially.
Interesting.
They attract top talent. They have more loyal customers.
So it really does.
And they're better positioned for long-term success.
It pays to.
Yeah. It pays to be sustainable.
Be sustainable.
And it goes back to that idea of collective responsibility
Yeah.
that the skit highlighted.
Yeah.
It's not just about individuals making changes.
It's about...
It's about creating systems and structure
Right.
that support those changes.
Yeah.
And that requires action at all levels, individual,
Right. Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
corporate,
Yeah.
and governmental.
So this deep dive has taken us on quite a journey.
It has.
We started by exploring an educational skit that focused on individual actions.
Right.
Then we zoomed out
Yeah. We looked at the bigger picture.
to examine the broader context of climate change.
Right.
And the need for systemic solutions.
Absolutely.
And now we're circling back to the individual.
Yeah, full circle.
But this time with a focus on how to influence change.
Right. How to make a difference.
In our communities and workplaces.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating exploration.
It has.
And it highlights a crucial point. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, the more we understand about these complex issues,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are
To find those solutions.
to navigate them and find solutions.
The skit provided a basic understanding of environmental challenges and solutions.
Right. Laid the groundwork.
And hopefully our conversation today has deepened that understanding.
Yeah, filled in some of the gaps.
Providing our listeners with more context and actionable insights.
And remember, this deep dive is just a starting point.
Yeah.
It sparked a
A
conversation.
jumping off point.
But the real work begins. Now it's time to take this knowledge and turn it into action.
That's a great note to end on.
Thanks.
We've explored the problems, discussed the solutions, and now it's up to each of us to do our part, however big or small.
Right.
Whether it's reducing our own environmental footprint, engaging in our communities, or advocating for change in our workplaces, every action counts.
Every action counts. And remember, you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
There's a growing movement
There is.
of individuals, organizations, and even governments
It's good to hear.
committed to creating a more sustainable future
Yeah.
by joining forces, sharing knowledge, and taking action.
We can really make a difference.
We can create a ripple effect that leads to lasting change.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive.
Great.
We'll be back next week with a new topic. But in the meantime, keep those brain gears turning.
Yeah.
And remember, even seemingly small actions can contribute to a larger wave of change.
Absolutely.